Okay, this one just came up on my Facebook feed. Don't really Facebook source very much, but the odd couple Rob Parker and Kelvin Washington. In this video, Rob Parker of the odd couple, Fox Sports Radio, discusses whether or not the Bills need to fire Sean McDermott if they're serious about winning the Super Bowl. Let me see what he has to say. I tended to agree with that statement up until this season, but let me hear what he has to say.
And I think if the Buffalo Bills are serious about winning a Super Bowl finally, Sean McDermott has to be fired. And it's not that Sean McDermott can't coach. It's not that Sean McDermott can't get another job somewhere else.
Right.
Is that there comes a time when you look on the milk carton and the milk is expired. That's what's happened to Sean McDermott. The milk is lumpy in Buffalo, and it has nothing to do with the cold. Since he's taken over, they fired every single coach that's there, and except Sean McDermott. So at some point, he is the common denominator. Now, unless you say we're going to move off of Josh, right? Because we don't think he can get it done or whatever. That's the reason. If you're going to go to that route, then maybe I'll buy into it. But you're not going to give up Josh Allen, a quarterback, for a coach. And a lot of people will go like, oh, it's ridiculous. They lose a game, prison of the moment. You want to throw everybody out. And if you don't win a Super Bowl, you're no good and you should be fired. There comes a time when teams that are serious just look at it and say, we can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. He didn't just he got hired in 2017, okay? He's 7-7 in the postseason, 500. But when he came to Buffalo, they had a long stretch. They weren't getting into the playoffs. He did that. Okay, he got that first step. They started making the playoffs on a regular basis. Bravo. But he can't get them over the next hump. And that's where teams that are serious about it, teams that want to win, they go and they do the deed. And that's what the Buffalo Bills need to do.
If I'm looking at McDermott, I'm looking at it as, dude, the only person you can't beat is arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time and arguably going to end up being the greatest quarterback potentially of all time. So I'm looking at it as we keep getting the knocks at the door, the cracks at the door, and we're hoping that this thing will open. But if you look at who they're losing to, they're literally losing to one of the most potentially doing something that never has happened in the NFL. If they win in 2 weeks and three-peat, they will have done something that hasn't been done in the Super Bowl era. Let me make sure we say that correctly. And that, to me, is what you're losing to an insane anomaly versus it's a McDermott issue. Now, did he get outcoached by Andy Reid? Yes. Who doesn't? And did Josh Allen get outplayed by Patrick Mahomes? Again, yes. Who doesn't? So I don't think I have to overreact and then get rid of McDermott.
Program. Kelvin Washington is the one I tend to agree with. Now, going into the season, I was probably locked and set, whatever you want to call it, with Rob Parker, the first guy. Part of me is still with him. I want to put more blame on Brandon Beane than Sean McDermott because this roster has a lot of holes in it. He's missed on a lot of draft picks. And Josh Allen was the one he got right, and that's the most important one. But he's missed more than he's hit. And the roster's starting to show. It's when you look at their defense, which is like the fifth worst defense in the league this year, when you have a defensive-minded head coach, when you look at that receiver core, and before Amari Cooper was brought in, they couldn't get anything done against Houston and the Jets. Those 2 weeks, and Baltimore, I guess you could throw into that. They couldn't get anything done those 3 weeks prior to Amari Cooper arriving. The defensive line, whatever they do, they draft players. They don't get any pressure on the quarterback. Ed Oliver has shown that he can play, but his play level's been inconsistent. Now, he had a very good game in the AFC Championship in the third quarter. Like, he owned that third quarter. He played like a monster. He was rather kind of just there the rest of the game. I'm not putting all the blame on him, but like, he was a monster for like the third quarter. That was about it. They drafted Greg Rousseau, he never comes up big when you need him to in the big games. He goes and gets you all the sacks you want during the regular season when you're playing against the bad teams. When you're playing against the good teams in the playoffs, forget it. Von Miller hasn't worked out. Von Miller hasn't been healthy, but it hasn't worked out. I give him credit for trying, but it's time to move on from Von Miller. AJ Epinesa, I kind of put him in the same category as Greg Rousseau, only not as talented. Daquan Jones has been whatever. They've been better with him on the field than without him, but they can upgrade. They can use an upgrade. I don't like that they use the nickel defense the entire time either. Taron Johnson is basically the third linebacker, and it's not really working out because teams are running the ball at will on them. Rob Parker also talked about how McDermott's coaching staff, how he's fired all the staff. So that's kind of misleading. He fired Rich Dennison, his original offensive coordinator, the first year he was there, because that offense was garbage. And he was basically the only offensive coordinator left for McDermott to hire at that point. He brought in Brian Dable, who left to become the head coach of the New York Giants. He then replaced him with Ken Dorsey, who didn't work out, and now he has Joe Brady, who everyone seems to love, but he couldn't figure out a game plan to save his life in that AFC Championship game. Defensive coordinator Perry Fewell was his original coordinator, and he resigned on his own, and he left. He wasn't fired, although some people outside of the organization say that he was asked to leave or forced out, whatever the case may be. He left. He left on his own accord. And then Sean McDermott took over defensive coordinator responsibilities last season. This season he handed him off to an assistant, Bobby Babich, who I think Bobby Babich, with what he had, did okay. They could definitely use an upgrade in talent on that side of the ball. But yeah, if the Bills would have somehow lost that game to Baltimore, I absolutely would have agreed, and I would have been the first person saying they should fire Sean McDermott. But he got him to the AFC Championship game, and the team was in a position to win at the end of the game. They didn't come through. You can't really fire the guy. You can't really fire him. We don't have an owner like Jerry Jones who fires Jimmy Johnson after back-to-back Super Bowl wins because he wants power of the team. We don't have an owner like that here. So I think McDermott is safe. I even think he's safe. Say they lose in the wild card round next year, he's probably safe. But I could see the argument, like Rob Parker makes, that if they ever want to get over the hump, they need to move on from him. And up until this season, I was in that camp. Now I'm not. Now I'm in the let's slow our roll. Let's just hold on a bit. But if you want to make a case to get rid of Brandon Beane and bring in somebody else with a fresh set of eyes, I would be open to that. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.